Hello, people. I finished a book, Africa, a biography of the continent. This is a great book. It's a really long book. I started reading this when I was still at the cabin, and I finished it here at my house in the Detroit area. I don't have a whole lot of notes, mostly due to laziness. My notepad was out in the truck. I did go get it today, but I didn't take any more notes. I just finished it today. It's a really good book. This thing is just packed with information. Published in 1999, and the author's name is John Reeder. And I know that I've read something else by Mr. Reeder, and I think it was a long time ago. I did look at a list of his books that he's wrote, and there may have been like some natural history, I think, that I read of his. 682 pages. Kind of small print, so while I was at the cabin, I struggled with this, since it's getting light, or it's getting dark earlier, there's no electricity at the cabin, so I can only read for so long. It starts out geology, paleontology, anthropology, evolution. That's maybe the first 1/4 of the book. Then it goes into more archaeology, and I don't know myself. I don't. Some of the archaeology surprised me because although I am accustomed to expect anthropology from Africa, Lucy, Skull 1470, all of that. Just all the work that's been done on some what would be medieval sites in Africa, that kind of surprised me. And the whole middle of the book is taken up by that. What was going on in Africa from the year 500 up until, colonialism began. It goes through colonialism, and at the end of the book, it goes through some of the stories of independence. It ends up, the very end of it is about the end of apartheid in South Africa. Right before that, they talk about Rwanda and the ethnic slaughter that took place in Rwanda. And I've read quite a bit about that, and that continues to fascinate me. I have a little bit of notes here. Fourth paragraph, page 111. There's so much in this book that this little bit of notes that I have is not representative at all. 1, 2, 3, 4. In evolutionary terms, the correlation between larger neocortex and group size suggests that the benefit of living in larger groups had been the selective advantage which favored the evolution of the primate's large brain. And the trend begs a pertinent question. What size group does it predict for humans, given our very large neocortex? The figure works out at 148, and a trawl through the relevant literature provided Dunbar with evidence demonstrating that this is indeed the group size at which human societies appear to function most effectively. I thought that was very interesting, and right away I thought about two things when I read that. The first was, how did they figure in the orangutan in that, since the orangutan is basically a solitary creature? I'm sure it has a neocortex. That they dismissed that, or I don't understand, but they did end up in subsequent pages offering some examples of this 148, and I've always thought that human societies are kind of like a tinderbox, because because there is too many people. We're jammed too close together. Uh, Also, I thought about years and years ago when I was a very young man, in my early 20s, and I was taking my anthropology classes. And our whole class went to the Toledo Zoo, which has, uh, you know, not only has apes, but it has monkeys. It's supposed to be a really good zoo to look at primates. And we all brought notepads, and we were supposed to take notes. And our teacher told us to completely ignore this one group of primates that they had in a very small cage. They were little. They were, like lemurs. To completely ignore them because there was too many of them in that cage, and thus it affected their behavior. They were not behaving uh, as they would if they were in the wild. Of course, probably none of them were behaving like they would in the wild, but these weren't behaving anywhere near normally because of the numbers. Second paragraph, page 254. Assessments of subsistence farming in Africa that fail to take note of the constraints under which it operates have occasionally attributed the apparently undeveloped state of African agriculture to lethargy and an inability to innovate. The absence of the wheel and the plow from sub-Saharan Africa, for instance, is cited in a context suggesting inherent backwardness and ineptitude. A closer look shows that the wheel and the plow were never an option for the indigenous sub-Saharan farmer, not simply because many African soils are difficult to plow and domesticated draft animals would be susceptible to endemic disease. A more pressing reason was that feeding the animals would place unsustainable demands upon the food production system. And a really good book that goes into that much, deeper is that Guns, Germs, and Steel that I read. That was a fantastic book. That was a book that I had for years and years, and I just never read it. When I did, I said, damn, I should have read this a lot earlier. Last paragraph, page 368. There was a lot of stuff here that I should have marked for reading, but I was simply too lazy to get off my ass, go out to the truck, and get my notepad. That's pretty bad. Were it not for the importunities of Europe, Africa might have enlarged upon its indigenous talents and found an independent route to the present, one that was inspired by resolutions from within rather than examples from without. The moment passed, however, during the 15th century and cannot be retrieved. Since then, the history of Africa has been the story of an ancient continent and its inhabitants trying to accommodate the conceits of modern humans whose ancestors left the cradle land 100,000 years ago and who came back 500 years ago behaving as though they owned the place. It was a really good book, and thank you for watching.